take us back there. Obviously, these gentlemen don't need any introductions, but it's a thrill to have them here. And part of this entire experience for us has been super exciting to spend time with them. And of course, as many of you know, Mr. King just ended up 41 years on the road. But the road does go on forever, and you're damn right that the party's not going to end with all kinds of really cool and exciting new artistic endeavors forthcoming, including a documentary itself. Right on. So let's welcome to the stage Delbert and Robert O'Keen, and as they come, we also want to and you know you've made it, ladies and gentlemen, when your poster is in the bathroom of the Country Music Hall of Fame. That's when
you know. Are you guys up there? A brief disclaimer. But the good news, if I'm moderating a panel, it means that the unemployment rate in Nashville is 0, apparently. I am from Houston, and most of us think it's part of Texas, but a lot of other people don't. But I am a Texan. I'm a little bit younger. I lived in Austin for a few years, but it was after the Armadillo closed. But I think that I was still there, part of the hangover, and I've always just really loved the spirit that all of this music just put into the world, and it has been a big part of my life and the people I've been around in my career. So, Galeman, 10 years, huh? We're 10 years into this, right?
10 years.
All right. So tell us a little bit about the beginning, the middle, the end, and then also just why the Armadillo today, and how does that fit in to your plan? But really just dig into the heart of why you were doing this.
The why, as I mentioned, again, it was just a single film, just a single film. It's funny, last night I was at a showcase, an art showcase, and somebody introduced me to actually a publicist here, and made some comment about doing a documentary. And her response was, "Oh, that's cool. Yeah, just a casual film." Yeah, just a casual film, 12 hours. But I don't know, like I said on the outset, something that just really captured my heart, and Kelly and I just went and just kept going. But you know, it's not a Willie Nelson film. That's forthcoming. Some amazing filmmakers that are doing that. It's not a Waylon Jennings film. Outlaw, of course, as we know, marketing, and that's our way into a much larger story about what it means to be an artist. What it means to follow what's inside yourself regardless, and that word regardless is what we've learned is really critical. It's not about outcomes. Thanks to Tamara, we had the opportunity to launch into principal photography in May 2013 with Chris Christopherson, and it was one of, if not the last really in-depth interviews that Chris gave. And went about an hour and a half, and we walked out of that just going, okay, the tone is set. To hear Chris and get emotional to say, it's not about money, it was about whether we were doing the good work, writing soulful songs. "10 years later, 12 hours, it's about doing the good work and writing soulful songs. And these guys are at the top of the list as far as writing soulful songs."
Okay, so one thing about being from Texas, I always love, people ask me about Texas music, and I've lived here for 32 years, and my wife's from Texas, and we travel around, people hear our accents, and they'll ask where we're from, and we always say Texas. I love Nashville as my home, but Texas is my real home. But I love Texas music because it's of something. It's not for anybody, it's just of a spirit. And it's steeped in a lot of history, but it's weird, and it just goes to places where you would never expect. So Delbert, how do you fit into all this? And what does the Armadillo mean to you? I know you played there, and I know you played a few other places in Austria that time, but tell us what all this means to you, and also just tell us a really cool old story. You tell all about it in your song night.
Well, I was around for all of it. And the role I played was not so much what most people played in the 70s in the Armadillo. I was on the blues side of it more than anything. But it all ran together, so it kind of didn't matter.
Yeah, well, that's what it did seem like. It ran together, which is so weird to me because I was not there, but I lumped it all together. You know, when you say you lump all the people in the room together, you lump all the music together, if you ask me.
Austin was a magic place in the 70s, just waiting to explode. And of course, Willie did it. And, Willie's the one that opened the gate for the singer-songwriter and his guitar. Before he opened it up, that wasn't really happening. You didn't find people walking the streets with a guitar. They were around, but they had no place to go. And Willie set it up to become what it became at the Armadillo, just like in the film. Great big old empty place, perfect. Get them had a lot of beer and let them do their music, and everybody loved it.
Well, it does. The song, and Texas song, man, they're just weird, they're interesting, and they cover the gamut, and I would be willing to bet that you could, the titles of songs from this movement rival the titles of every song ever written in popular music. So you lived in Austin for a little while, and tell us, Robert, what all this means to you, and how you fit in, and how it influenced your career.
Well, in 1974, I graduated from high school, and then in the summer of '74, I went to Willie Nelson's second picnic, which was truly a group of artists that were from A to Z. So they had say Lefty Frizzell and Johnny Rodriguez on that bill, and then of course Willie Nelson and Mark Murphy, and then they had David Carey, all right, of all people, right? And so it went really across the board. There was somewhere around 20, 30 artists on that particular bill. It was on the weekend, I guess it was in July the 4th weekend. And I've told the story before, and it's on one of my records, so I can't get away from it. But I went there with this girl, and we were like enjoying the whole thing and doing the whole, like, here's a pill, here's some pot, here's some tequila, here's some watermelon, and we were having a big time. And I kind of fell asleep in the afternoon, and I woke up, and there was a guy up there. He was the MC, and he said, well, you have to hold everything on the music for a minute because we've had a line of fire out in the parking lot, and you could see behind the stage there, this huge plume of black smoke. And he said, and the first, and we have some license plate numbers out there, and the first license plate is RHP 997. And I went, oh man, that's my car, man. And everybody around me started clapping. No, it's my car. They even clapped louder. Yeah. So I jumped up and I ran out there and I ran outside the festival grounds out to the parking lot, and sure enough, man, my car was gone. It just had like the wire left over from the tires there, and everything was gone. And I was looking at it, and this reporter comes up and he said, "Did you lose anything important?" I lost the fucking car. And then my girl, and I was really just infatuated and head over heels about, I was walking up, and she has two guys that were literally dressed in loincloths. That's it, They were blonde guys that came right out of, like, Achilles heel stuff, And I mean, they were 6, 7.5 feet tall, and they were blonde, and they were huge and good-looking guys. And I said, why? And she was like, giggling and laughing. I said, why are you giggling? And she said, your card's funny. I said, no, it's not funny. She said, I said, we don't have a ride home. She says, I have a ride home. And that was it. And I didn't see her again. I had to hitchhike home and lost the car. And that was pretty much it. However, between the time I hitchhiked home and then seeing the car on fire, burned up, they said, look, all we can do is like, you can't do anything about it, but we can let you meet Willie. So they took me backstage, and Willie was coming out of one of those aluminum cans that they have backstage for artists, those luxurious aluminum cans that we have for us. And he walks out, and they tell him about the car, and he shakes my hand, and he says, you know, good luck, I have to go jam with me on Muscle now. I said, okay, great. And that was it. That was my consolation prize. And, from then on, it didn't keep me from loving the music. I loved it even more after that. I was like totally firebranded, basically, you could say, on the music. And I would go to Austin on the weekends from College Station. And one weekend I went there with my old friend Duckworth, and we went there and we actually walked in one of the music stores, and there was Mickey Raphael right there that was on the thing, the harmonica player from Willie Nelson. And right as we were walking out, there was Ray Benson, who was asleep at the wheel. And man, we thought we were in heaven. We thought this is the best thing anybody could ever happen to us. And then I ended up, after I graduated, moving to Austin on November the 30th, 1980. And I think on December 1st, 1980, everybody that was in the Red Rock scene got in a bus and moved out of town. And everybody that was like Delbert and that was in the blues moved into town. And the whole town was about blues. And it was like that for several years, right? Delbert?
Well, it still is.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. It never did come back as far as the redneck rock scene. It was pretty much blues, wasn't it?
Well, there was Stevie,
Yeah.
and Jimmy,
Antones?
yeah.
Yeah.
It also exploded, just with a little bit less beer.
Right, yeah.
You know.
Right.
But they were right together there for a long, long time, and kind of still is. But you know, I heard a story years ago. I can't swear that this is true, but a story that I heard that pretty much fit that scene. And it was when Jerry Jeff had a little TV show here for a while. You remember that? And he was
Texas Connection.
Yeah, Texas. He was interviewing people, and he had Ray Benson on there one day, and Jerry Jeff's trying to be real cool host. He says, "Well, Ray, tell me," he said, "what's the difference in when we first came here and now?" Which had been several years, and Ray thought for a minute. He says, "Well, when we first came here, everybody was looking for acid. Now everybody's looking for acid." And all between. So, that's always something.
Getting back to the songwriting part of it, because again, I mean, first of all, both of y'all are great and accomplished songwriters and unique songwriters, but you also record other people's songs, which I've always thought that's the mark of a great songwriter. Was the spirit of this whole movement, or did it ever affect your writing, or did it play a lot in your writing, or were y'all just kind of out there doing your own thing in the midst of this?
Well, I'm only speaking for myself, but another factor that was involved in that was at the same time a lot of the radio stations were playing, you know, Willie Nelson, Townsend Van Zandt, Guy Clark, and all of those people, and I totally gravitated to that version of songwriting, which was basically, there were no rules about songwriting. There were just, you just write about, I can write about that clock, I can write about your boots, Frank, I can write about any damn thing I wanted to, and I did. And you can ask my wife, she'll tell you in a very embarrassed tone, yeah, he wrote about Sam and Cher one time. That was the kind of thing. So that was opened it up to me, it's like there's a certain amount of freedom about the whole thing. Because before then, I guess I've been kind of sketching out some, you know, copies of some country songs or some Broadway songs or something. And then when I heard those songs, I thought, throw away that rule book and move on.
I mean, you're writing songs way before this took place, but do you know, I mean, and obviously it was your career, I mean, it's been blues-based, a lot of it. Did you find that it was accepted, or you just still, you're being a free spirit? Is that kind of makes you part of the movement, but never knowing you're part of the movement?
What?
Right with that, ladies and gentlemen. Let me say this, let me rephrase it. What I'm trying to ask is that, you know, you had been writing songs obviously way before the Texas movement, and I was wondering if you're just a piece of another piece of the puzzle, or were you feeling the ability to be a Texan and just do whatever the hell you wanted to?
Pretty much. Do what I wanted. Let me tell you, I don't know where it came from, but in high school in Fort Worth, I like half credit, graduated high school in English. But everybody in every English class had to write a Christmas poem. And the winner would be on the Christmas issue of the Jacket Journal, which is a school paper. Well, I wrote a poem called I Sat, what a blind boy sees on Christmas. And I can't remember all of it. Anyway, I won, and I was on the front page. And I couldn't get out of English class to save my ass, you know. But it just comes out, you know. And at first it was poetry, and it just came out. When it's coming out, you gotta let it out. And I wrote that poem, and I wrote other little ditty things, you know, that just came to me, and I said, that's cool. I wrote it down. And then I might have it there for 2 or 3 years, and I revisit things I write again and again and again. And I think it's good because you go back to investigate something, and something you were having trouble with just solves itself, you know. And then the minute you look up and you've got a complete song that you're happy with. And I don't know where the hell it came from, but it comes out. It just comes out. Doesn't it come out?
Absolutely.
And so I've been chasing this since I was 13, 14 years old. And it's still just as good as ever, not better.
Amen.
Anyway, I don't know the truth.
I got an even more convoluted question for you. That's not true. So a little bit more about the armadillo and how that fits in today, and what for for the whole project. And
Well, I think Belbert hit it, in the film. It was the headquarters. And, what I mean by that, and I just missed it. I got to Waco, Texas in the mid-'80s, so I missed it by, 5 years and had to do time in Waco.
You stayed in Waco? Still, you don't have to live in Waco.
I learned that. Actually, my parents said I did. I got to graduate. So, but anyway, getting into this, it's just, and back to your question, I think it represents even what, I said on the outset, Americana, just this great melting pot of amazing artists, genre-free or genre-less. In fact, in the film, Delbert, you remember when he said, there's just 2 kinds of music. Music you like and music you don't like. Yeah. But, with the Armadillo, I think the music itself, and I think this is really critical, especially in 2022, is that it was a true community. And you ask anybody and everybody that was associated with it, that played there, that just went there, and the word safe comes up.
It was this mass fellowship all of a sudden. Bam. Everybody was on the same page.
You could be who you wanted to be.
Yeah. But everybody was so positive, you know, and it's in such a, once the 70s got rolling, they never stopped, day and night. The vibe was going on in Austin, in New York City, in Timbuktu. It was all about Texas and Armadillo and Willie and all of those lined up to play their song, you know.
Well, yeah, that spirit.
Yeah.
That spirit, and that's what, you know, what you guys have continued to take forward with Robert for years, and even though off the road, continued to take forward. But that spirit, and, you know, I remember back for ACL, just back in April, and I told you afterwards, you know, it was just, wow, even that first strum, that feeling that you give, you know, we all know that. You go to Robert Earl King show, you walk out feeling something, right? You go see Devil for Clinton, you feel something. And it's that spirit that we're trying to capture in these 12 hours. That spirit of the Armadillo, the spirit of these two guys, and you know, 100 plus others, as well as then identifying those younger / current artists that are taking that spirit forward. In fact, the 6th chapter is titled "Live Forever." You know, who's taking that forward? And but back to the question, Frank. I think it represents not just the music from a genre standpoint or genre-less standpoint, but who you can be, who you want to be, in a safe environment that, you know, was just, you know, it was tolerant, it was accepting, right? And it's, you know, 2022, where can we go today, you know, back to the Armadillo to feel that, to experience that, and to be who we want to be. That's what we have taken away from it. And unfortunately, you know, like I said, just about 5 years.
I'll say this, and you were part of this. We had when I wrapped up everything on the 4th of September, the day after, on Labor Day, we had what we call Fan Appreciation Day, and there were so many people that wanted to get in. We had to create a lottery for it. So we had about 2,500 people that got a lottery ticket, and we were at Forest Country Store, which is right outside San Antonio. And so there are 2,500 people out there, and there are about 40, maybe 50 artists backstage. Everyone from Breathless Kelly to Ray Benson to just, you could just name it, as far as like Randy Rogers, like the whole Texas music scene as it is today. And there was at one point right about sundown, right as the sun was sort of going down there, and the sky was blue, and the world was sort of orange and blue and everything. And I went up there while Ray was playing, Ray Benson was playing, and he was playing this old song that Waylon made famous. It was actually an old Jimmy Rogers song, which, by the way, today is Jimmy Rogers' birthday, everybody. So, in case you don't know it, so the father of country music, and so he's up there singing "Pouring Drizzling Rain" around the curve coming passenger train, and he's singing this and playing this with Grissom and Lloyd Maines and this really great house band that we had going on, and there were people literally right up there at the stage, dancing in a circle, and like it was a time machine of 1974. It was unbelievable. It was just beautiful, and the vibe was there. And it occurred to me right that moment. Not only was there a whole different time frame with that scene back then, but that music actually did have really a soulful effect on a person. And when you sat there and listened to it, you saw those people all hugging and dancing. The only thing that was missing was glass long necks. That was the only thing that was missing. I mean, that was the feeling, and it was the soul of that music that really carried it so well. And I never I mean, I was in it and I loved it, and I went to a bunch of Delbert shows and everybody's shows back then. But I never did really realize that how much soul and how accessible it was to a person at the time, and until that moment right there, you know, which is a month ago, less than a month ago. Anyway.
I think I remember, yeah, what record was it? You were telling the story, the phrase, it was a time, a wonderful time.
Yeah, right, it was.
Magic, man. It's really magic. Because, once again, the fellowship that it created was something that I had never felt before and hadn't felt since. It took it to a new level, but when it was all brand new, it was the best. And can't nobody change it.
Well, and we have a great opportunity next as it relates to the soulfulness of that time and that music. And somebody that I've grown to know and love and appreciate very, very much in Chris Coleman. Holly Williams, Chris Holmes. And, well, when we get to that point, absolutely. Chris and I got to know each other, and Chris working with Frank, and Frank can go on and on about Chris. And but the first time we went in the studio together to start scoring these films, talk about the magic and that soulfulness, and you know, I'm thrilled to be able to collaborate with Chris and Frank Rich, who's amazing, and those two are going to come up, and they're going to take us back to Austin, Texas. Fortunately, we've got to line this up where we could keep going for a couple hours. With Gary P. Dunn's London Homesick Blues off of Jerry Jeff Walker, Viva Terlinga, 1973 from Lukenbach, Texas.
Let's talk about beer. It got me thirsty, Eric. Got any back here? When you're down on your luck and you ain't got a buck, in London you're a goner. Even London Bridge is falling down and moved to Arizona. Now I know why. That's a sketchy acre rumor that the English sense of humor is drier than the Texas sand. You can put up your dues, or you can bet your boots that I'll be leaving just as fast as I can. I wanna go home in the armadillo.
Help them out.
Good country music from Amarillo and Abilene. The prettiest people and the prettiest women you've ever seen. Well, it's cold over here, man, I swear. I wish they'd turn the heat on. Where in the world is that English girl? I promised that I would be on the food floor. And now the whole damn life, the only friend I got is a smoking a cheap guitar. My mind keeps roaming, my heart keeps longing to be home in a Texas bar. Lone Star. I wanna go home with the armadillo. Good country music from Amarillo and Abilene.
2022, 2023, they call us Outlaws, coming at you.